In previous movies, you've seen me use the layers window. So in this movie, I thought I might show you how to use and create your own layers. We're zoomed in right now so you can see the layers window a little bit more easily, and you'll notice that this file has 4 different layers. Now, the benefit to layers is that they are isolated from the other layers, meaning that you don't have to worry about them getting in the way if you're trying to work on something specific. Each of these layers has an eyeball next to it. And so by clicking on that eyeball, it allows you to toggle the visibility of that layer on and off. So say, for instance, the top layer here is taxi. If I click on the eyeball, well, the taxi disappears. It's not that it's gone, it's just that it's being hidden from view, so I can get to the other pieces more easily. So here's another one for the cop, here's another one for the hydrant and the trash can, and then finally, here is one for the background. And then you are back to your empty Illustrator artboard. So I'm going to turn all of those back on. Now just to the right of that is an empty square right here, and if you click on those, that allows you to lock a layer. And so right now the taxi is locked, so if I click and drag on this, he is not going anywhere. Whereas if I click and drag on the cop, he does. So the benefit to that is then you can leave elements in position so you can see the relationship to other elements, but you can't accidentally move them or they won't get in your way when you're trying to select something else. Well, through the magic of editing, here we are at a whole nother place and time. So what you see in front of you are the numbers 1, 2, 3, each one representing a different layer. And so what I'm going to talk to you here about is how to modify what you've done with the layers. And so you know how to turn them off and on, you know how to lock them now. But what if you decide that you would actually like to change the order of these? Well, before we do that, you need to understand that layers have a stacking order. And it's quite simple, and this will hold true in Photoshop or any other program that you're using layers, is that you need to look at it as if it's from a side view. So if you come over here to the layers window, this is on the bottom, and you'll see that this is behind the other layers. So if you kind of think of this sideways, take a piece of paper and then you stack things on top of that piece of paper, then as things stack up, they may cover up other things. So for instance, the 2 is covering up the 3 here, and then the 1 is covering up the 2. Well, that is because of the order that they are arranged. Now, can you easily change that? Well, yes you can. So say I would like the 1 to be underneath the 2. I'm going to mark that layer, and I'm just going to drag that layer and put it underneath the 2. And so now that layer is behind the 2, but the 2 is still in front of the 3. Let's try that again. So I'm going to click on the 3 layer, and let's move that all the way to the top. And bada bing, baby, we have just rearranged those layers. Okay, so let's say we want to change the name of these layers. That is easily done as well. So I just double click on the layer name itself, and then I can just type right over that. Done. But what if you want to create a new layer? How the heck do you do that?
I don't know.
I am going to pull the layers window out from the dock so you can see it a little bit better. You will notice that at the bottom of the layers window there are some buttons. So you'll notice that this furthest one on the right is a little trash can. So if you want to get rid of a layer, you can just click on it and click on the trash can. If you would like to add a new layer, which is what we want to do here, then all you have to do is click on the Create a New Layer button. So I'm going to do that, and it will put that new layer directly above whatever layer was currently active. So I'm going to drag this to the top, and then I'm going to rename this layer 4. And then I just happen to have some artwork over here to the side, so I'm going to pull this in so we can see it better. And so that's good. We have artwork, but the problem is that artwork is on the wrong layer. You'll see that is on the 3 layer. So how can I get that up to here? Well, it's quite simple, and there's multiple ways to do it. One way would be to do a cut, Command X, or that's under the Edit menu. And then you can click on the 4 layer and make it active, and then paste it. That's one way to do it, but let me show you the easiest way to do this. You'll notice that right now, with this active, that there's this little green square over here to the right of the 3 layer. And you'll notice that each one of these layers has a different color attached to it. That color coding does absolutely nothing but help you identify which layer is which. So if I click on this and I want to move it to layer 4, watch this. I just click on that little green square and then drag it to the layer I want it to go to. And then bang, we have a 4 on its 4 layer. How can I be sure? Well, let's toggle the visibility just to make sure. Yep, it's on that layer all right.
Well, smack my mama.
So you'll notice that as you click on different elements, kind of pay attention to these little squares at the right of each layer, and it's just a little visual indicator of what is currently active and on what particular layer that active element is located. Okay, so you will do that a lot. Let me show you something else. Now, this is not something you will use a lot probably, but there are also sublayers in here. So you'll notice each one of these layers has little sublayers. And so I twirl that open, and that shows me everything that is inside of the layer, including I have another group here. So you can change the order of things even within the layer itself. So say, for instance, for some strange reason, I wanted the 1 here to be in front of the word layer. Well, I can mark that, and then I can drag that and put it above, and you'll see the type disappears because it's not gone, it's just being covered up by the number 1. So that really isn't something I want to do, so I'm going to drag that back to the way it was. But you do have the ability to go in and control the sublayers as well. Okay, one last thing. What if I wanted to make a duplicate of one of these layers? So how do I do that? Well, I find that element and that layer inside the layers window, and I mark it, and then I go to the menu, the layers menu, and I choose duplicate 3 in this case. That's the name of the layer, and it makes a copy of that. So at this point I can rename it, but more importantly, chances are I wanted to make the duplicate so I could try a variation of something. So say I want to get rid of the type on that, I can delete it. Say I want to change the color on this, I can go ahead and change the color, and then I can add this to my design wherever I want it to go. So say I just want this to be at the very bottom behind everything else. And this allows me to try variations and to try things very quickly and easily without having to start from scratch. So that's pretty much layers. There's a little bit more to it, but this is kind of the big stuff in a nutshell. And again, you will find this very similar in Photoshop and other programs that use layers. So as you can see, layers are everything they are stacked up to be.